Let's see. This is it. This is Peachy Teaching. Say it a bunch of times fast. Peachy Teaching 101. This is how to, this is for those of you, this class is for those of you who maybe never thought of teaching. Maybe you thought you'd like to, but you're too shy, or you just have, whatever reservations. Maybe you think you don't have anything to share with the community. And I would offer this little quote that's always stuck with me my whole life. That from the time I heard it, at any rate. And I don't know if it's a biblical quote or whatever, but it says, "Every man is my better in that I may learn from him." In other words, everybody, no matter how much you think maybe they're really stupid or whatever, they have something that you can learn from them. So no matter how stupid you may think yourself, or just that you don't really have anything to offer the community, you would be surprised. There are a lot of people that will like what you do and are curious about that. So, yeah, even you, especially you, Mark. I'm going to aim this class specifically at Mark because he's been here for like 17 years now, never taught a class. So, okay, here we go. Peachy Teaching. And the reason that we want to do this is so we don't... This is this is the main point of the class. 20 years, yeah, because it's all about the prep work. I knew this was going to be a problem. I knew I'd put funny stuff in here, and it was going to make me incapable of just plowing ahead and talking without laughing. Yeah, poor little Billy here. He didn't, it's all about the preparation. That's an awful lot of it. There are things that you can do to make the whole experience of teaching go along really well, okay? Like I said, it's not going to be we don't want to see that. We don't want to see that. Wrong one. So there's little Billy. Okay, so here's some reasons to teach that maybe you should convince yourself that maybe you should be a teacher. And it is a fun thing to do, I'll tell you, because you have valuable knowledge that you can share with the whole community. And okay, a little indigestion there. And as I said, there are things that you can do that other people, like for instance, I'll give you an example. I'll use Mark as an example. He has this ability to use vector to do the most wonderful flowers. Now, I don't think I could do that, not without being shown. I would have to be shown how he does that. I could kind of figure it out, but see, that would be a wonderful thing for, I would love to go. There's so many people. For instance, there's another user, EAP123. His name is Ian. Ian does the most phenomenal clouds. And I like doing skies and clouds and stuff. And fortunately, he's already taught a couple of classes about how to do this. And I was so grateful for this because it's so nice. Even though, I do a lot of landscapes. Quite honestly, I'm kind of sick of my own techniques. I'm a little fed up with them. So I really like it when other people, put on these classes and show. You never know who's going to be really interested in what you like. And it is a very cool thing to share with the community, and it feels good to do that. It really does. I like doing this. We'll talk about being nervous and stuff later, but I found that from the first time I did a class, my very first landscape class, I kind of did it to challenge myself. And I have found that I enjoy the process very much. And I think once you get used to it, once you do you got a couple under your belt, and you relax with it, you know how it's going to go. It's a fun thing to do. So there. Come on, scroll for me, baby. Okay, So here's I hope you can read some of this. I have this kind of small. As you can see, I went all out. I avoided typing. I was thinking about using the text tool for all of this stuff, but not so much. Not so much. So here's some things that you can do before class to get your, just to make things easy. A lot of the preparation before class, if you do this kind of stuff, it'll make it so much easier than just trying to wing it. You know what I mean? You'll feel better about stuff. So if you're doing something, the first thing there is research. Now, if you're presenting something that's isn't necessarily something you concocted, your own style or something, like let's say you're doing something about the Renaissance period. You want to teach about that because you like that particular thing. Do some research about it, get some facts, not too much because we do have the internet, and if people are really interested, they can go do further research, but pick a few things that you think are kind of interesting. For instance, when I did the pop art class, there's Roy Lichtenstein, there is Andy Warhol, and the one that I always was my favorite was Peter Max. So I chose to single him out, and I just had some facts about him, just did a little research, and based my class on his particular style. So you don't have to know everything. It's not, you don't have to bring the whole encyclopedia with you and inundate people with information, but it's kind of fun to pick an aspect that you like, do a little research, and just present some information and maybe suggest other things that people can, go and find out for themselves and explore other things. Now, taking notes, this, it says there, keep it on, I say that like I didn't write it. Keep them on a separate sheet of paper. Let me show you something. This is what I do. This was for my pop art class. This is what I'm talking about. I don't know what that comment about my cat. I don't know. Oh, I remember what that was for. Okay. Anyway, I took notes, and this is some of the notes about Peter Max that you can see in there. So that's what I'm talking about. Keep that stuff on a separate sheet of paper so that it's available for you to you don't have to, because you can only have, with an iPad, you can only have one thing open at a time. So it's good to have those things, off to the side. And I have that same book is right over here next to me with little notes that I need. So it's, it's always good. It gives you something else to keep track of. Or, if you have a PC, do it by the PC, but just somewhere where your notes are separate. This thing about making a sketch club file ahead of time with examples and concepts written down and illustrated on several layers, that's what you're looking at right now. I had all of this in my head. Now, yeah, I said somewhere in here, I mentioned doing your research, getting things together, well in advance. And I'm a lousy example of this. I had all of this in my head, but fortunately, I'm an insomniac, and I woke up at 2 in the morning, and between 2 and 5, I put this whole thing together. I just wrote it out and organized it and everything. That's not really the best way to do it. It's only because I've done this enough. I've done it a few times. I'm kind of relaxed with the teaching process now. So I'm not really, this is not the best example of it. But as you can see, when I open up the menu, I have several pages, several layers of things to show you guys. So it's now you don't necessarily have to do that. I don't think I did that with my first class, which was a basic landscape class, but it was based on Bob Ross's technique. Almost everybody has seen Bob Ross. So I didn't really feel the need to go into all that, and honestly, I'm not even sure I thought about doing a presentation about it because it was my first class. But I had studied ways to translate his technique into the digital format with multi-layers and all this. I've been doing it a long time before I discovered Sketch Club. So, so if you're, say for instance, with Sarah's class, Sarah Taylor, she did an abstract class. Now, I didn't see it, I'm embarrassed to say, because I love Sarah, but I I'm assuming she didn't really put together a presentation. She just launched into the creation and how she does that. So maybe that approach works better for you. But if it's something that requires some explanation and some, examples and things like that, put something like you see here, these, just a little presentation. Take some time the week before, and don't put it all together like I did last night. I just knew I wasn't going to put a whole lot of stuff into this, so picture-wise, there wasn't going to be much of that. Most of what you're looking at is sort of what's going to keep going. So, at any rate, so yeah, make a sketch club file and put together a little presentation about that. And I don't know why this particular one came out. I think my opacity was down. This is one thing that's really cool. When you're teaching the class, make sure that you have some place where you're not going to be disturbed. And I understand that the acoustics are wonderful in the bathroom, but you might be disturbed in there. Mom, I gotta go. So maybe that's not the best choice, but at any rate, choose some place where it's quiet and not a lot of background noise, and where you're not going to be disturbed for the duration of your class. And and if you got to use the bathroom, get that stuff out of the way, right? Get all that stuff out of the way ahead of time. We saw my notes there. And this is some of the stuff during class. There you go. There you go. I like that. This is one of those things. Now, we used to do this a lot. You may want somebody to transcribe. It was a general thing that was done when I first started teaching, that somebody would be typing along and in the text it would be highlighted in blue. We haven't been doing that so much anymore, and that's really for the benefit of people who don't have audio on. But these things get recorded, almost all of them do. So it's kind of a moot point. If you can't hear it now, you'll be able to hear it later. So that's why it says don't sweat it, because, and this is one thing that right there, as you are drawing, don't forget to keep an eye on the chat window. I was guilty of this for several of my classes. You get drawing along, and this is the thing, when you're creating and you're showing somebody your process, it's very easy to get absorbed in what you're doing, the same way as if you're in the actual creative process. And it's a very easy thing to forget that there are people watching you, and they'll have questions. And I've looked back at videos of classes that I've done before, and I thought, crap, I didn't see that going on. I have like much later regret over those things. So that's a big thing. You want to make sure that you keep an eye on the chat window, and not only that, but there's a lot of nonsense that goes on, particularly in my streams. And it's always fun to kind of watch that stuff as it happens. This is an issue that was brought up. Don't use background music unless it's royalty free. If you can find some source, if you can use some source or find one of background music that is royalty free, that's one thing. But these classes, when they get recorded and uploaded, they can't have music in there, pop hits from the 80s and all that good stuff. Can't do that. So it will result in, some copyright issues. Stop it. Don't pick on me about these things. And by the way, this is, I should tell you that this, I'll be doing a series of classes, and this one in particular, the whole reason for this class was that the breakthrough group, I keep wanting to say the background group. So anyway, the breakthrough group asked me to help out because I had this, kind of fondness for teaching anyway, and they were down a teacher. So Floor asked me if I would step in and do a few classes, and of course, of course. And this is part of one of the things I said to her when we were first discussing this. I kind of almost flippantly just said, why don't I do teach a class about teaching? Well, Fleur has this habit of never letting me forget anything I say. So she's actually very good like that. It's sort of it's sort of like a secretary of sorts, because it was maybe a month later, and I was, she was saying, well, when are we going to do this stuff? And I was like, oh, all right, well, let me get some ideas together. And she said, what about that? What about your idea? So she reminded me about this idea for this class, and this is in a direct effort to actually hopefully get some of you to maybe join the breakthrough group and teach a few classes yourself. And even if you don't, just in conjunction, if you have a group, you run a group, and classes are always, we used to do them all the time. We had them at least once a week, and they've always been very popular. So it's like going back to the other thing. It's a cool thing to do, to share with the community. But check out the breakthrough group and think about becoming a teacher, because I'm sure that you have things to share that are quite valuable. Let's see, where are we? Okay, during class. You'll see I wrote some things here, okay? Just want to make sure. I knew it was going to happen, right? I'm thinking ahead. I'm always thinking ahead. All right, so during class, this is another thing to to remember, is to take your time. If you've never taught before, it's very easy, and I think I did this in my first class, or maybe the first two. I was kind of high-strung, because I wasn't used to it yet, hadn't relaxed with it. And, you want to do a good job, and you want to, somewhere in the back of my head, I was thinking, I got to be professional about this. I don't know at what point I threw that out the window, because I'm really not now. Now I'm just, I'm just more conversational, like it's just me and my friends, So I was guilty of, I think, going a little quickly. And I've seen other teachers do this. There was a class once about how to do, the topic was doing an Easter egg. And the teacher was showing how to make a kind of a 3D looking, like a grill kind of a thing, a decorative grill. And I watched as the entire chat room was going, slow down, I don't know what you're doing, back up. Well, the guy who was teaching just kept plowing right through. He wasn't watching all the questions, and he wasn't going back. So nobody got their question asked, and everyone was going, do you think you remember? Yeah, I remember it, I kind of got it. And it caused this mass confusion. So you really need to just breathe, just relax. It's okay, and take your time. And you do have to remember that, if you're showing somebody a technique that you've been doing for a while, well, it's like grease lightning to you. You know how to do it, and you can zip right through the process. And sometimes, with digital art, the process, it can get pretty involved. So you have to remember that nobody knows how to do what you're doing, hence, you're showing them. So slow down, take your time. And when you open up the panels like this, and you say, now you want to adjust these things. Now this is the point where you got to stop and let everybody see what your settings are. And a lot of people will, could you open that up again? And it saves a lot of problems with, with people just not being able to see what you're doing. So you want to make sure when you open up panels and change your settings and stuff, it's really critical that people can see what you're doing so they can get a better idea. And again, like I said, to watch the chat window, because there will be questions. Okay, and that last one down there, I feel it easy to be, kind of entertaining and whatever, because I used to do radio. I used to do this stuff for a living. And I loved it. So I'm very used to being in front of a microphone. It wasn't always like that, and I'll talk about that later. But being a little entertaining with this stuff, it's not necessary. You don't have to be that way. I've never seen anybody really, not get something out of a class because it wasn't entertaining enough. That's not why people attend the classes. That's not why I attend the class. I don't hope to be entertained. I hope to, it's nice, if that's the case, but it's not necessary. I want to see how somebody like Ian, he's not a song and dance kind of a guy. It was pretty straightforward information when he was showing how to do the clouds. And that was excellent because that's what I was there for. So don't feel you need to do the same thing that I'm doing. You don't need to joke around necessarily if that's not your style. Just be yourself. Just absolutely just feel comfortable being yourself, okay? Because it's really all about the information. That's why people attend the classes. Moving on. Let's talk about this. See, I told you this was going to be we're kind of wrapping this up. This is one of the last things I specifically want to address. Getting nervous. This is a big deal. So many people, they say, oh, my voice could kill a cat or whatever. I've heard all sorts of things about people. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. They don't like their voice, or they just don't think they could do this. They think they'd be too nervous. Well, like it says there, proper prep work, it goes a long way. It really does. If you have your stuff organized, if you have your information there, and it's off to the side so you can just refer to it, you're not going to forget anything. And it says right there, prep well in advance. Give yourself about a week, so you're not panicked about, do you have enough? Do you have too much, or whatever? And so it's one of these things. At this point, you might say, well, that's easy for you to say because you've taught a bunch of classes. Well, that's exactly the point. Because I've taught a bunch of classes. I've done this several times, and I'm not nervous anymore. Whenever I was just telling Fleur just before we came into the chat room here, or got on to Sketch Club, I told her, I'm always just a little bit nervous, just a little bit, before we start these things. But it's less and less every time I do this because I know it's going to be okay. It's not that big a deal. It really isn't. There's nothing to really be nervous about, but I totally understand it. And like I said, we'll talk about this in a while. So just make sure that you get your prep work done. That's tremendously helpful. Get a drink, what I don't know what you want to drink, but just make sure that you get yourself comfortable when you're going to do the class. And breathe. That's the thing right there. Just remember that word there. Just breathe. Just relax. It's not brain surgery. It's just teaching a class. Okay? So remember, I was getting silly. I put this together between 2 and 3 in the morning. So sue me. I was getting silly. People are in your class because they're interested in what you do. And yeah, just maybe because they love you as well, and they want to, be moral support and all this stuff. And I can tell you for a fact, I know there are a couple of people in here right now that will never do a class, but they're in here right now because they love me. So that's great. It's a cool thing. Yeah, couple of vodkas. There you go. Yeah, you don't want to slur your words. You want to be careful. Yeah, I tried. Let me tell you a little side story here. I used to do 2 classes, and there she is. Yep, she knows what I'm talking about. Her good old lumpy bits. My British family over there, they love me. the first few times that I taught a class, and I kind of like this, I would kind of like to do it again. I would teach two classes, not different classes. I would just do the class two different times. I would do it whatever night I did it, like 7 or 8 at night, which is fine for over here in the States and some other areas, but I used to also do the same class over again. Now the first class would get recorded. The fun class that you guys never heard were the late night ones that I used to do for Mark and Jim and everybody who's, you know, several hours ahead of time. I'd get back up at 2 in the morning and teach another class, teach the same class, but I just figured it was a nice thing to do. Now I'm not suggesting everybody do that, but one of them was one of them was sponsored by Mike's Hard Lemonade. Yes, indeed. And yeah, that got to be kind of fun. That was a fun class. Nothing like a hard lemonade to just kind of, you know, get things rolling. So anyway, yeah, I've done that before a couple of times. All right, so where are we now? Winding down. Novus continued. Let's talk about being Novus. This is one thing right there. Ask a few of your most trusted friends to sit in on a practice run. Sarah did this. Sarah Taylor, when she was, I think it was her first abstract class, or no, it was a texture. I think she was doing the texture class, and I don't think she'd ever taught before. So she asked a few of us if she would sit in on a stream, and yeah, okay, it was very casual, and we were all kind of jokey with her and whatnot. But it gave her a chance to be with, you know, just friends, people that weren't, it took the pressure off. And she went through her presentation in kind of a relaxed manner. And I think that's the fun thing about doing it for your friends, because it gets you, you know, you're not taking it as seriously, and neither are they, but it lets you run through it and get your information out. So when it comes time to actually do the class, it's, you know, you feel better. You've already done it. It's not a brand new experience. So that'll tend to calm your nerves as well. And again, you should realize that it's just art. You're just showing people techniques, okay? I know it's very easy to feel like you yourself personally are on the line here. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. It's not, people aren't going to judge you personally. And they'll understand. I've been in a lot of classes where the teacher, whoever's teaching the class, has been noticeably really kind of, you know, hopped up and trying to do a really good job and all this, and God bless them. That's awesome. You know, that's tremendous. But the information gets through anyway. So just realize that it's, you know, it's not gonna, nothing is, you judged me? It's not that big a deal. It really isn't. Yeah, no one's going to die. I don't know if you've ever handled exploding chickens before. I do not recommend it. I do not recommend it. Feathers everywhere. And the noise they make when they go off, oh my God, it's terrible. Let's talk about this, your voice. This is pretty much wrapping it up. This is the last thing I'm gonna discuss about it. This is, let me tell you, you know, people think that I just flow with this, and I do now. I do. I don't care that there's a microphone on. It doesn't shut me down at all. It doesn't make me feel nervous. Everyone says, oh, I hate the sound of my voice. Hate the sound of my voice. Oh, everybody says it. I'm going to tell you something. I got into radio when I was in my 30s. It was back in the late 80s. I'm dating myself here. I first got into radio, and not only was I nervous, just like anybody who's ever sounded nervous in a class in here, I don't know what possessed me to apply for radio, quite honestly. I was, I had a little home studio. I've always been a musician, and I was recording, little things. And I had friends in there, and we'd get on the mic and goof around, but it wasn't anything serious. It's just, and everybody, when they hear themselves recorded, it's like, oh, my voice sounds so funny. Well, the reason is because when you hear your voice, it's resonating through your sinus cavities and through, you can, if you actually put your hands on your head, you can feel the vibration of your voice in your head. Well, you hear that. You hear that resonance, and it sounds more full than when you hear it in a recorded format. I will tell you, to this day, I've been at this a long time, boys and girls, I still don't like the way I sound recorded. I still don't. It's that, so don't worry about it, There are very few people I know. There are people that had radio voices. There was a guy named Bill Miller. Oh my God, Bill Miller had like this velvet voice. It was so deep and just had this nice little sort of rasp to it and whatever. This guy just had golden pipes, as they used to say in the radio business. What a voice. But he wasn't always that interesting to listen to. But see, not all of us have that, though, not all of us have a stellar voice. I don't think I do. I think I have a very average voice. I sound better when I first wake up in the morning. I always wanted to do a morning show just for that reason. Just sleep, go crash in the studio and get up 20 minutes before my air shift, so I got that nice, sexy low voice. Excuse me. Having kind of a moment here. Anyway, but so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter if you like your voice. I've never heard anybody say, boy, that class was terrible. Did you hear that voice? Nobody ever says that. They care about what you're teaching. Okay, that's the only thing that matters, is what the information you're presenting to them, and that it's delivered in a in a way that they can use the information. That's the very bottom line of the whole thing with teaching. So yeah, don't sweat it. Just be yourself. Just it's one of those things that makes everybody unique. I rather like the aspect of everybody's voice being different. Everybody loves to find out what you sound like. So it's a cool thing. So anyway, yeah, I got into radio, and yeah, even to this day when I'm singing, I love to sing. I know I'm good at it. I didn't realize how to work it until I started playing guitar and singing in these streams for the Sketch Club girls. But it was because of that I learned, more about how to do it. And you can actually learn the same thing yourself over time. The more you do it, I'm going to tell you, the more you teach, the easier it gets, the more you relax, the more you realize that you can just be yourself. One of the things that there's a thing in radio called the Arbitron book. And have you ever heard of the Nielsen's? If you're a female and you're in Sketch Club and you like coming to my streams, yeah, you're a Sketch Club girl. Anyway, the Nielsen ratings are, TV show ratings and all this, where there's the kind of comparable thing in radio is called the Arbitron, and it's this book that I think a radio station has to pay to actually be included in the survey. I'm not sure, it doesn't matter. But it breaks down in pretty good detail. I don't know how they figured this stuff out. Who is listening at what times of the day to what DJ on what station, and it's very detailed how it breaks it down. Well, one of the things I hated about radio is the egomaniacs. I didn't say I hated, but that's kind of a strong word, but I was just kind of over it. All these guys that are, their egos were just out of control. There were a lot of people like that. And evidently, and I say this because I've never seen the inside of an Arbitron book. I've never seen what they look like on the inside. But these guys would all get together and, you know, and flip through and they'd, ooh, you know, it's like watching well, I don't know, I'm just going to say it was a little girly. It looked a little girly to me, all these guys kind of, you know, fawning over themselves and seeing how they rated, and everything was like, you know, signing each other's yearbook or something. It just had this weird aspect to me. And a couple of times I was encouraged. It's like, oh my God, you know, Mike, you ought to see, you know, your numbers here. And I would say it to him, and I'll tell you guys, I never cared. I never wanted to see them. I didn't want to know. Evidently, no, it's not. I don't live in a hugely populated area, but a radio station, you know, reaches a pretty good geographic area. So it is safe to say that at any time I was on the air, thousands of people were listening to me. This is what I gather from what they were saying about themselves, and they were, you know, I don't know. Why do I get a Pandora notification? Did you just see that? Anyway, I never wanted to look in the Arbitron, and the reason is I always wanted to sound like you, the audience, and this goes for every one of you in this chat room right now. You're the only person I'm talking to. I wanted to sound like that. I wanted my radio not persona, because I didn't really have, I just do what I do now. You're hearing exactly the kind of, you know, way that I always presented myself on the radio. I never tried to be professional. I always wanted to just sound loose and conversational and like I'm just talking with my friend. And that's why I like teaching, because I consider you guys all my friends. So you're in here, and I'm just gonna be here and be myself around you. So realize you can do that. You can do that when you teach a class. That's the whole point. So that would be my final point. I don't think I have anything else to really go through here. I think, no, I do have a couple. Nope, that's it. That's the very last thing. Here, let's take a look at Billy again. Poor little Billy. So, I love that picture. So don't be like poor Billy, okay? Don't. I like little Billy. I want to take his hat off and pat his little head. It's all right, Billy. Next time will go better. Just do a little prep, you know? So I hope you guys have you know, learned something from this. And I hope it encourages you to realize that you do have something that you do that other people want to see. And you know what? It doesn't matter if there's a dozen people in your stream. It doesn't matter if there's 3 or 4. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's not a popularity contest. It's you offering something to the community, and it's a really cool thing to give back to the community. I enjoy it very much, and I know you will too. I know you just may get the bug. You know what I mean? You may just very well catch the fever. Pow, chicka, wow. It's fun. I encourage you to put together a class either for your own group or, like I said, check out the Breakthrough group and think about joining. Think about things that you might like to teach, even if you just have it in your head and you know, play out a class in your head for a while. It doesn't, just because you think you might like to do it, you don't have to jump right on it. So get used to the idea, and I do hope that more of you decide to show us what you can do, and that you enjoy the process of doing it. Okay? So that's it. That is class. Thank you all very much for showing up and indulging me in my presentation of nonsense. So I wish you guys that Peachy Teaching. Okay? No problem. No problem. I always enjoy doing this. I always enjoy doing this. And I miss those 2 in the morning classes. I may I may resume those. They were kind of fun because I'm always up anyway. I always have my bouts of insomnia, so I'm good for teaching at 2 in the morning. Thank you for coming around. I love you guys, and I love Sketch Club. And thank you once again, Jim, for just this whole thing, the app, the community, everything that you've done all this time. And okay, all right, guys, take care. I love you. I'll talk to you later.